Welcome to Art History with Jackie. Today, we will be looking at an artist who has become synonymous with surrealism, Salvador Dali. Surrealism is an art form characterized by its emphasis on the irrational and the exploration of the unconscious mind. Dali was born in Catalonia in 1904. Dali had an older brother, also named Salvador, who had died when he was a child. The idea of his dead brother haunted him throughout his life, and this informed his art as he moved through his career. Dali attended the Municipal Drawing School at Figueres from 1916 and discovered modern painting on a summer vacation trip with Ramon Pichot, an artist who made frequent trips to Paris. The next year, Dali's father, who had not been supportive of Dali's artistic endeavors up to that point, organized an exhibition of his charcoal drawings in their home. Dali had his first public exhibition at the Municipal Theater in Figueres in 1918. In 1922, Dali moved to Madrid, where he became involved with the Madrid avant-garde group Ultra. Also in 1922, Dali became involved in a lifelong relationship with the Prado Museum. He would go to the museum every Sunday to study the works of the great masters. Dali referred to this time as a monk-like work period, where he studied and worked to improve his technical skill. He began to experiment with avant-garde movements such as Cubism, Dada, and Futurism. In 1926, Dali made his first trip to Paris, where he met his role model, Picasso. Over the next few years, Dali made works that were strongly influenced by Picasso and Miro. From 1927 onwards, Dali's work became increasingly influenced by surrealism. Two of these works, Honey is Sweeter Than Blood and Gadget and Hand, were shown at the annual Autumn Salon in Barcelona in October 1927. These works featured a number of elements that were to become characteristic of his surrealist period, including dreamlike images, precise draftsmanship, and lighting and landscapes that evoke his native Catalonia. Influenced by Sigmund Freud, Dali began to introduce suggestive sexual imagery and symbolism into his work. Dali was interestingly equally influenced by the most academically classic to the most cutting-edge avant-garde. Exhibitions of his works attracted attention and a mixture of praise and debate from critics. Some were displeased with his use of both traditional and modern techniques and motifs between works. Now, about his mustache. In the mid-1920s, Dali grew a neatly trimmed mustache. As the years went on, he cultivated a more flamboyant style that became a well-known Dali icon. Just look at it. In 1931, Dali painted one of his most famous works, The Persistence of Memory, which developed a surrealistic image of soft melting watches. The general interpretation of this work is that the soft watches are a rejection of the assumption that time is rigid. This idea is supported by other images in the work, such as the expansive landscape and other watches being devoured by ants. During World War II, Dali fled to the United States. He then returned to Spain, where he lived for the rest of his life. The later years of Dali's life were fraught with angst. His wife moved to a castle, which he was not permitted to visit unless explicitly asked. He struggled with drug addiction and depression. He was said to have signed blank canvases that could later be used for forgeries. Dali died in 1989 after years of failing health, drug problems, and depression. He was buried in the crypt below the stage of his theater museum in Figueres, pictured here. Symbolism in Dali's art. From the 1920s onward, Dali introduced many bizarre symbols that encourage interpretation. Food and eating have a central place in Dali's work. He associated food with beauty and sex. The rhinoceros began to be seen in Dali's work from the 1950s onward. He linked the rhinoceros to themes of chastity and the Virgin Mary. Rotting donkeys and ants have been interpreted as pointing to death and decay. The elephant is also a recurring image in his work. His interest in science was also said to have made its way into his pieces. His soft watches, for example, have been interpreted as references to Einstein's theory of relativity. Dali's life and work have been an important influence on pop art, other surrealists, and contemporary artists such as Jeff Koons and Damien Hirst. He is the epitome of the eccentric artist, and his work continues to provoke viewers to this day. Thank you, and see you today at Art on the Deck.